the importance of empowering animals. So our presentation is called What Choice Do They Have? All right, so who are we? We are Empowered Animals Behavior and Training. I'm recognizing a lot of you, so I think we chatted with you guys when you were like walking around. I'm Lizzy, and this is my sister Emily. Emily is want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm a certified canine behavior consultant and a certified trick dog instructor, but my background is mostly in zookeeping, where I've been working since 2013, and then recently transitioned to doing this full time. But I've been doing this stuff in the private sector since 2010.
Yeah, and I am a board certified behavior analyst. So I have my training in working with people with behavior challenges. So that's what I do full time is I work at an interdisciplinary center, mostly working with kids that have behavior challenges. So I specialize in kind of coaching people. So a while back, Emily and I realized like we're just doing the same thing, one with animals, one with people. It's the same principles. So we decided to collaborate together to develop a collaborative behavior consulting process. So that's kind of what we do. We specialize in training people how to work with their animals so that you guys won't need us forever. You'll learn the skills and then you can support your animals. Okay. So why empower bunnies? This was a topic that they asked us to chat about. And I'm sorry I'm a bit winded, but it's just getting hard to, exist at this point. So why empower bunnies? That's what we were asked to talk about today. Something we're really passionate about is empowering people and empowering bunnies. But why? I think it's a question we get a lot. Like, we know we can train them, but like, why is this so important? We know it's important to train dogs, right? Because they're big and they can really, be quite disruptive in your home. But bunnies, maybe not as much, right? They can be confined. Not the same level of disruption. So why is it important? So we have two different pictures here. And which bunny do you guys think seems more empowered, confident, comfortable?
Right.
Well, the one freely moving at their own will, right? So bunnies are little and hamsters are little and fish and chameleons and all of these things that we don't necessarily have to train. We can kind of force them to do things. And sometimes, of course, there's going to be times we have to pick up our bunnies, our animals. But why should we empower them? For us, it's just because it's the right thing to do. Like, it's the kind thing to do. We're able to do it. We have the skills. We have the science. So that's, we'll cover several other reasons, but that's kind of the most important reason to us, just simply because it's the right thing to do. So as I mentioned, it's just kind. And one of our passions in our business is teaching, like, the next generation about like kindness towards all living things. We also know that it improves their mental and emotional health. So being able to make those choices, having that confidence is just really helpful. It decreases stress and therefore also improves their physical health. And we know, especially with bunnies, how important it is to keep them fairly low stress, right? It decreases behavioral issues because they have choice. We don't have to use force. Anytime we're having to kind of pick them up, move them, or take away their agency, we can see that behavioral challenges can arise from that. So fearful behavior, aggression, those types of things. Oh, sorry. It also builds trust and communication, which ultimately enhances our human-bunny bond. So that's why we get bunnies most of the time, right? It's because we want to have that relationship with them. And this really teaches us a different way to do it. We can communicate with them. If you stopped by our table, we have that bunny body language visual. And that's kind of the first step in being able to establish that pathway. Is like, we don't have to teach them to speak English. We can learn their language and learn what they're saying, and they can learn to understand us. And we also, as I mentioned, are really passionate about training the next generation because children so easily pick this stuff up. And it really helps to teach empathy and respect, specifically for bunnies, but also for all creatures. So here's a couple of examples. And there's a couple of bullet points. Okay. So, really empowering bunnies centers around giving them choice and respecting them. I think there's one more bullet. Yep. And so this video, we have just some examples of how we can empower them. And you're going to see this is asking a bunny if they can pet, and then they're able to say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. So this is one of the things we teach all the time. You might have heard it as like consent testing or teaching animals consent. So as you can see, the hand was presented and the bunny saw it, and then he chose to lower his head, saying that he's asking to be pet. And this is another example for nail trimming, voluntary nail trims. So as you can see, the nail trimmers were presented. She chose to put her paw up. She knows that anytime she could remove her paw and the training stops, but she opts it. So something that's typically pretty stressful for bunnies, right? And taking medication. So the medication is presented. That's kind of the difference in this training, is sometimes like we can distract them and maybe slip it in, and maybe there's times we need to do that because it's an emergency or there's a medical problem where your animal just needs the medication. Of course, that's always going to come first, and we're going to make sure we get that in them. But when they're healthy, we can train for this these voluntary behaviors. And as you can see, the syringe is presented. She knows what to do. She comes up, she chooses to take it, and then she's rewarded. And this is for a voluntary injection. This was one of the little guys we had. He was pretty sickly. He needed a lot of intense medical care. And you can see he was a bit wiggly. He was like, what's going on back there? But he knows that he could choose to leave and that process stops. But he chose to stay, and that's okay for him to look and to want to check it out. But he chose to stay and get his injection. And so, those are the types of behaviors we're looking to train when we talk about empowering them. All right, and Emma's going to take it over from here.
Okay. So when we talk about empowerment training, we kind of have three big topics within that. So the first is going to be choice. So what is choice? I pulled definitions straight out of the dictionary, and I apologize that it's going to be like bam, bam, bam. But choice, the opportunity or power to choose between two or more possibilities. So presenting an option for animals to have literally a choice. The next one is going to be control. And control is defined as the power to make decisions about how something is managed or done. And finally, the next one is, what does it mean to empower? And that is to give the power to somebody else. So to give the power to have, the opportunity to make the decision about the two possibilities. Those are things that we can give to all of our animals, but definitely our bunnies. The way to quantify animal welfare is being updated constantly, and especially as we begin to recognize that animals are sentient beings. There was a time in the not so distant past that people would say animals don't have feelings or animals don't feel pain. And I think it's always important to compare. Like, people would say the same thing about like infant children, like that they don't experience pain. And of course we know that's like insanely outdated. And so luckily we keep updating because we want to keep getting better. So this is the current model of animal welfare and how we kind of put something that's not very quantifiable into something that is quantifiable. So there's 5 domains. The physical or functional domain has 4 sections: nutrition, environment, physical health, and behavior. And then we have the mental domain. So what does the bunny experience and how do they feel about it? So, and there's a couple of little clickies here too. So behavior is kind of that one that's lagging behind in pretty much every animal area. We've made great advancements in nutrition for rabbits. We know they don't eat muesli mix anymore. We give them hay. We don't put them in a hutch outside in the backyard. We bring them inside. We take them to the vet. We get them fixed. And behaviorally, like, there's a lot of inputs that we provide. We provide enrichment and toys, but then this is the piece. And there's another little click there too. We have to really look at what does the animal really say about it, because we have gotten many people say, they're like, oh, I provide them all the toys in the world, but they still eat my baseboards, or, they still are afraid of me. And that's because we have to look at kind of what is the animal's response to these things that we're providing, and all that together creates the welfare status. And I think that's the next one. So what happens when we lose control? So, and you can go through all this. So, in the lab, a lack of control over aversive events is used to study two main phenomena. Those are learned helplessness and clinical depression. So when animals don't have control and they feel like they don't have any agency over what happens to them, these are definitely things that can happen. So, but we can change this for them. In one study, they gave a little bit of control back to some mice that had experienced learned helplessness, and it decreased kind of the intensity of that feeling. So we just do the best that we can with what we have, give a little bit back. And animals don't necessarily go to that, but that is a consequence of taking away all the control that they have in their lives. You can go to the next. So what happens when we feel like we are losing control? So this right here is going to be a real big paragraph, but I highlighted a couple of things because this is usually what people call us for. Fighting, and this is a human thing, but this is what it looks like. Fighting, screaming, like overwhelming emotion. Those are behaviors considered to be illustrative of loss of control, the process of sinking into that state of learned helplessness or clinical depression if it is caused by the environment. So when we lose control, we fight to get it back, of course. So we want to make sure that if we are seeing these things in our animals, we're like, okay, how can we give these things back to them? So kind of back to the main question of this presentation is, what choice do they have? Because bunnies on their own, make a lot of choices. However, and they need to have choice and control to have optimum welfare. And this will have like several little bullet points if you want. So we control where they live, what they eat, when they eat, how they live, like what their housing is, even whether they get the opportunity to breed, which of course they don't need to do that, but that's kind of a big part of an animal's life. And when we control all these things, we got to give something back to them. So that they know what to do with their day. So they're not chewing their bars on their cage, or they're not stripping your baseboards, or spending, all day just kind of like hunkering down under the couch, wondering like what they're going to do with themselves. And then I think we've got one, and who their companions are. This is a big one. People call us for relationship rescue all the time with their bonded pairs. And a lot of times we ask, what the cause or why they chose the second bunny. And it's not very often that people have done some sort of personality matching with their rabbit. A lot of times the person really liked the other rabbit. They get it from the rescue, and then they're like, well, it's not working out. And sometimes it's because it's not going to. And the animals rarely get that choice to even make that decision about who they're going to live with. So that's where training comes in. And it's okay. Training gives that autonomy back in the interactions with us specifically. Might it be more work for us? Yes. But is a deeper relationship with our rabbits worth it? We think so. So how does it work? So there's a couple of different ways that we teach this in our courses. So one is just really straightforward if-then sequences. If you do this, then this happens. And then the rabbit learns how they can operate on the environment to produce certain consequences for themselves. It creates really clear communication. You guys saw the video of the consent testing where the person presented their hand and the bunny put her head under it. That was a bunny that did not want to be touched. That was after one session with us where we were like, just like present it and like see if she does X, then always respond this way. And if she responds any other way, take it as a no. And then she was like, oh no, yes, I do like to be pet. But just like ask me first, which is like fair, right? Like fair. Positive reinforcement training is where we get kind of some of those more advanced results. So gradually teaching how to do something or how to feel comfortable with something happening. So the injection training, for example, gradually. I didn't start out, tenting his skin and just going for it. And then understanding your bunny's body language, as Lizzy mentioned earlier, having that visual is kind of one of the first things that we do. So we can teach people what their rabbits are trying to say to them. So the rabbit doesn't have to use what we call like their yelling words, like the overt running away, biting your hand, growling, any of that kind of stuff. There are subtle things that they do first. We just have to learn, and it's hard to learn another language. But that's where we can help. So the other big deal is respecting your bunny's choice. Like when they say no, if
if you just are like, well, that's too bad, then like, again, what's the point in trying? Well, back to the learned helplessness thing. In this situation, you know, the rabbit may learn like, you're not going to listen to what I have to say anyway. So when I'm losing control, I'm going to go ahead and bite your hand because you're just going to be touching me or trying to pick me up. And, you know, no means no in these scenarios. So, so this is what we always get, is they're always going to say no. And then our answer is, no, they won't. Because as you can see in our first examples, they definitely will opt in. And no doesn't mean never. It just might mean not right now. We see this a lot in our scenarios, in our different stimuli that we present our rabbits with. Sometimes it means just give me a second, or like under these conditions I can't. So systematic desensitization allows for the bunny to be exposed to scary things, but in little tiny steps. And when the bunny knows they have a safe word, they're more likely to opt in. I always use the haunted house example. If you have to go into a haunted house, but like, you know, there's kind of two options. One is like, once you go in, like you got to go all the way through, or the other option is you can go in, but there's a safe word where you can, you know, get out quickly. Most of us would take option B, especially if you're a chicken like I am. A lot of people say that must take a long time. Sometimes it does, but not necessarily. A lot of times you can imagine which ladder is quicker to climb up, and they're both the same length. You can scurry up one and you got to kind of like really concentrate on the other one. So oftentimes we get results really, really quickly, you know, just by offering this choice in our rabbits' lives. But we start small and build from there. So we got a couple of quick wins. So some easy exercises for you guys to try with your bunnies at home that can rapidly build trust. The very first one we do with all of our clients is the relationship account. So we have people sit down and write out what your interactions are with your bunny for the day, cleaning their pen, giving them their food, doing, you know, I think almost everybody does like a good night treat of some kind, like so many people do that. And what we do is we go put it in a deposit or a withdrawal based on what you think your bunny thinks. And then we go into the withdrawal account and we just say, give us like 1 week and like, don't do those things, or do them, we adjust them so that they're not so negative for the bunny. And usually after that, the people report increased curiosity from the rabbit, attempts to interact with the human a lot more, because they're like, whoa, like you don't do that like weird like stuff anymore. So they're like more interested in like what you're doing, because they're social and they do like to interact with us. But they feel like sometimes like we don't know what we're doing and we're kind of unpredictable. So when we take that out of the equation, it makes a big difference. So relationship account, taking inventory of your bunny's day, is one way you can really just get some quick results. Our next one is called I believe this is the consent test one. I think we have one more bullet here. Approach training. So this is one that is really easy, and you can play this video. It's a little bit of a longer one. But this is a bunny that I was working with at SPCA Tampa Bay. I didn't know her, but this is what we recommend to all of our people. Sit down, have snacks, and you know, if they show up, fantastic. You can reinforce it. And if they don't show up, like, okay, it's fine. Like, but reinforcement literally means increase the frequency of. So not just about giving treats, not just about being friends. We're trying to increase that approach of people and pair it with something positive, which is super important for shelter bunnies, right? Like a lot of people want that bunny that chooses them or like comes up to them, not the one that is hiding in the back of the cage. So this can really be great for shelter bunnies, but also for people trying to build a relationship with their rabbit at home. And then finally, we have consent testing. And this is, again, just kind of like the thing that we showed earlier. So those really clear if-then sequences. Here's your hand. Every time you bow your head, I'm going to pet you, because it doesn't always have to be the head bow. The bunnies are so great because they have a really clear way that is like very intuitive for us to be like, oh yeah, you want this. So we can go straight into that with them. But it can be any behavior that the bunny offers, as long as you offer a consistent response. So behavioral welfare, like we want to get up to speed with the rest of our bunny welfare. We no longer keep our bunnies in hutches outside. We don't feed muesli mix anymore. We spay and neuter our rabbits. We take their health seriously, and we treat them like part of the family. So it's time to, you know, update our communication, our interactions with them to bring that back up to speed. speed, or to bring that up alongside the rest of bunny welfare. So that is why empowering our bunnies is important. This is Hemingway. This is the little one that was getting the injections. He was a classroom pet. He didn't want to be touched by anyone or interact or like do anything. And then by the end, of our short time together, he was sitting for an injection and coming over and taking it, especially when you saw the injection I was giving was not done skillfully, and he had to have those every 3 days. So the amount of scar tissue was significant, where it was really hard to get the needle like under his skin and not out the other side. And he was a saint, as you can see here. So thank you guys so much.